over the years, do you have any favorite players? And not to put anybody on the spot, but guys you've dealt with and any
I
managers you dealt
no,
with.
it's okay. I hate that question
I'll cut that
because,
one out. I'm gonna cut that one
well,
out.
no, it really is hard. I mean, I've been fortunate enough. You can think I'm bullshitting you guys. I don't ever remember having an argument with a player in my time there. I got along. I try to treat the 25th guy like the number one guy. I, uh, I mean, one time in spring training, I was out with some writers, and a guy said to me, "Who's your favorite Met?" Uh, and I said, for some reason, I said John Franco.
Hmm.
2 minutes later, I got a call from David Wright on my cell phone. What about me?
What's up, guys? This is Cash Shake, Chairman, CEO, and co-founder of Baseball United, the first professional baseball league in the history of the Middle East and South Asia. And you're watching the Legends on Deck podcast with my boys, Brian Koss and David Condi.
Welcome to a special episode 100 of the Legends on Deck podcast. I'm Brian Koss, along with my co-host, David Condi. And David, this is a very historic episode for us in a number of ways, right? Of course, number 100. But David's going to share a little story about how our guest today ties back to the history of Legends on Deck as well. So obviously it's very important. But we have a special guest today, Jay Horwitz. Jay is the Vice President of Media Relations with the New York Mets. He also started with the Mets back in 1980. So he has 5 decades with the New York Mets organization. And he's had a multitude of jobs that he's going to tell us about within the organization. So he's kind of a legend in the media space for Major League Baseball. Jay, we're honored to have you today.
My pleasure to
Welcome
be
to the
here,
show.
guys. My pleasure to be here, guys. Well, correct you. I am the VP of Alumni Relations. I switched jobs
Alumni relations.
at
Okay.
18. Yeah, I don't want to get my friend Ethan Wilson upset that I'm taking his job.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough. Yes. But I was looking through your resume and I noticed that you've had a whole lot of different positions within that media and communication space at the New York Mets. So it was hard to pick which one what you were currently
Yeah,
in. So, but
yeah.
thank
I've
you.
been doing the alumni stuff for about 7 years, and I did the media relations stuff for about 38 years, which adds up to a lot of years.
Yes, it does. Well, Jay, welcome on the show. I mean, 100 means a lot to us. I mean, we started this in 2021, November. Brian had an idea, and they said, let's do a podcast. And, we write a lot on the site, but it just made a lot more sense if we can talk to people and share their story. And the story that started Legends on Deck was when I was writing for Mesmerize Online back in 2014. Joe DeCaro, brought me on and said, hey, you need to fall in love with the minor leagues because you're in Florida. And I said, okay, well, I really want to do the major leagues. So he pushed me to the minor leagues, and I got to interview a whole load of minor league ball players between 2013 and 2014. And then he said, hey, do you want to go to spring training? And I think it was a connection with you opening the door for me to come in. And I was told that I was going to be watched, that to make sure I behave myself.
Did
and
I say that?
no, you didn't say it, but Joe told me. Joe said he make sure
Yeah,
you behave yourself, go dressed well, don't act like
yeah.
a fan. But the funny thing is, you don't know this, but I walked into the clubhouse after I got my creds, and I walked in as a fan, and I saw all the guys, and I froze, and I got scared, and I walked out, and the security guard's like, "What's wrong with you?" I'm like, "Oh my God, I can't believe I'm there." He goes, "You're a reporter. Go in there and stop. Don't act like a fan." But I walked in, and I saw more of the minor league guys, and I saw David Wright, Granite, all the guys, and I just felt like, wow, this is a different world. And the experience was amazing. I connected with you, and you opened doors for other times for me to be there. I got a chance to go to Citi Field, was a dream come true. And I got to cover a game there, and I believe I represented myself very well and professionally.
I'm sure you did, man. I'm sure
No
you did.
no one ever gave me issues. But then the reason for Legends on Deck was just that experience of being there. I just wanted to continue following baseball. So I left Mesmerize and started Legends on Deck, and ever since then it's just we've stayed friends in the sense, a connection, and I appreciate that. And over those years, you were able to, I visited and you opened some doors for me. So at the end of the day, you were always someone that was good to whoever you dealt with and the people you dealt with, and always professional. So for that, I appreciate you
Well,
for all that you ever done for me.
glad to help. I'm glad to help.
It was a long time ago. There's probably a lot to remember, but let's go back even further. And you grew up, I believe, in New Jersey. When did you fall in love with baseball? Like, what brought you all the way to where you were with the Mets?
Well, my parents were big sports fans. My father was a big football Giants fan and baseball Giants fan. He brought me to the Polo Grounds. I saw the late great Willie Mays play. I remember going to the football Giant games in the 50s. The Sam Huff, Andy Robustelli, White, my heroes. In the 54 World Series, we had a little small apartment in Clifton. I remember watching uh, Willie Mays make the catch off of Vic Wertz,
Mm.
over the shoulder catch, throw back to second base. And my father loved sports. He indoctrinated to me to sport. And one of my regrets was my dad died in 1970, which was 10 years before I got the job at the Mets. He would have gotten a big kick out of me working for Major League team. My mom actually went to the 86 World Series and
Mm.
she passed in 1990. But my biggest regrets, I just wish my father had lived to see that his son had, accepted all my dad's learnings and went on to had a nice career in sports.
Well, that's awesome. So, what did you ever like play sports? Did anything that you played
No,
when you?
I was very incompetent as athlete. I couldn't play. I was a star second baseman for Epstein's department store in Little League. I could never hit the ball. So I used to bunt all the time. So one time we played Jocks Wolf Auto Supplies. And my father said to me, if you don't swing the bat, you can't play anymore. So I swung the bat, tripped coming out of the batter's box, and I hit a line drive to center field. The center fielder threw me out at first base, 8-3. That was the end of my little league. That was it as far as my athletics went.
So, did your favorite team were the Giants or the
The,
Dodgers?
the football giants, the baseball giants. I used to go to the Polo Grounds to watch the Giants play. And when the Mets moved out, and when the Giants moved to San Francisco, my dad used to take me to Philadelphia to watch the Mets play there. And I love Willie Mays, and thankfully because of Rusty Staub, I got to meet Willie when I went to work for the Mets. And he was one of my heroes, and I was a Giant fan until April 1st, 1980, when I went to work for the Mets.
Wow. So, asking you real quickly about the Polo Grounds, was that an amazing stadium?
Yeah, I remember how big center field was and how short left and right field were. I remember in the 54 World Series, the guy named Dusty Rhodes hit 2 home runs early to give the Giants a lead. And one time I saw a Met game. You guys remember an old guy named Mark Throneberry, the 62 Met?
Yeah.
He was running the bases and he was thrown out at third base. He had inside the park home run and he missed third base. Casey went out to argue, and the umpire said, "Don't argue, Casey. You also missed second base too." That was my time with the Mets. I wish I would have had the opportunity to work with Casey. He sounded like a real good guy and a real character.
Yeah, I only saw the Polo Grounds in the MLB the Show game, and I noticed that
Yeah,
the outfield right side and left side are very small, and then
and
the
it's
outfield is like,
gigantic instead of field.
yeah, it's like amazing. Like, why would they build a stadium so big
It
like
was
that?
gigantic, and it was good. Willie used to cover that territory easy, and the clubhouse was in center field. If you remember, that's where the Giants supposedly had a spy system against the Dodgers in '51, where they had a guy in the clubhouse with a periscope getting the signs, and that started a whole big mishigas.
That's funny.
So I noticed that prior to working with the Mets, you spent a decade or so as a sports information director at a number of colleges.
Well,
Uh,
really, just two.
okay.
I graduated at NYU. I was a SID in NYU from '69 to '72, and then they dropped sports. So we just dropped sports after 1972. So I was fortunate enough to get a job at NYU, excuse me, at Fairleigh Dickinson, and really my years at Fairleigh Dickinson helped me get the job at the Mets because I work with a lot of kind of crazy athletes. To give you an example, a one-armed fencer, an Arab Israeli goalie played on the same team, a priest who played hockey, a 43-year-old freshman football player, a baseball player who got hit by a pitch 129 times, a wrestler with 6 kids. What happened was, and then probably the best athlete of all, a fellow named Franklin Jacobs, who set the world's record. He jumped 2 feet over his head at 7'7". And that brought my attention. The Mets heard of me because of all the kind of different stories. And they were looking at that time, it was Yankee Town in 1980. So they were looking for somebody with a sense of humor, or, not just a stat guy. So all my experience in Fairleigh Dickinson helped get me hired with the Mets.
Oh, that's pretty interesting. Yeah. So the highlight you got to kind of set yourself up and make a name for yourself before you got over to the major
Well, I
leagues.
was fortunate enough to work. I loved the college life. I had a lot of good friends
Yep.
there, and I wasn't looking to leave. And they heard about him. It really was because of Franklin Jacobs at that time was a premier high jumper in America. And he was a little guy, 5'6", and we would travel the country doing track meets, and it came to the attention of the Mets. And finally, I was interviewed and I got the job, and it was because of the different athletes I worked with in Fairleigh Dickinson that drew the attention of the Mets. And I'm here like 46 years later, still
So,
here.
what was your first position with the Mets? What did they hire
Well,
you
same
for?
position. I was hired as a director of media relations in 1980. 1999, I got promoted to vice president, and then from 1999 till to 2018, I really did the same thing: yearbooks, press guys, game notes, setting up interviews, and then at the end of the 2018 season, Jeff Wilpon was then the president and said, "Listen, we haven't done a lot with our alumni. You were working most of these guys. What do you think about switching jobs?" At first, I hated it, guys, to be honest with you. I love to travel. I love the restaurants. I love the Geno's Pizza in Chicago. I love the camaraderie of the planes, the locker room. And I said, listen, maybe I can make a difference. And I said, okay, Jess, let's give it a try. And I think we built up something good here. We just had we've had a lot of number inductions. David Wright, Keith Hernandez, Darryl Strawberry, Dwight Gooden. We had a nice old timers day game in September. We had one a couple of years ago. What I'm basically doing is a conduit connecting with guys I've worked with. I mean, try to bring guys back in the Mets family. Hobie Landreth, who just passed away a couple of years ago, was the Mets' first draft choice in 1962. I called him a couple of when I first started, and he said I was the first member of the Mets organization to call him in half a century. Basically, that in a
Wow.
nutshell, what I was trying to do to bring back guys, let them know we cared. When guys get sick, send flowers. When it's a funeral, get represented at the funeral. Just to let the guys know that we cared, and that's what I've been doing in my job the last 7 years.
Well, that's awesome to be able to reach back out to guys like
Right.
that. So let's go back to 1980s when you kind of started a little bit. What was it like? Because I remember that time. I'm the only Mets fan in my family, and my mother, she made me a Mets fan. So in 1980, her and I would, and my sister would be in the stadium from the 80s, probably all the way through, and they weren't that good. What was it like between 1980 and 1984 before they got
Well,
good?
in 80, between 80, let me cut it down a little bit from for 80, 81, and 82, I was reaching for stories. I was doing stories on Lee Mazzilli as a speed skater, Doug Flint as a country and western singer, Craig Swan as a trainer. But 82 is a big key year for the Mets. In May, we brought up Darryl Strawberry from the minor leagues. The Black Ted Williams, number one draft choice in the draft. A lot of pressure. He's supposed to be we had a bad team at that time, and
Hmm.
we really brought Darryl up too soon. But he went on to be the rookie of the year, 26 home runs, about 80 RBIs. Then in June of that year, we make a trade for Keith Hernandez,
Hmm.
a former world champion with the Cardinals, batting champion, MVP, and probably the best move of all in '83. In October, we hired a late great my good buddy Davey Johnson as the manager.
Hmm.
That's the one key that really turned the Mets around. Davey, he was analytics before analytics. He was a pilot. He was a millionaire in the real estate business. He didn't have to take that job. At the press conference, he told Frank Cashin, "What took you so long to hire me?" And well, under Davies' tutelage, from '84 to '90, it was the most successful run in Mets history. In '84, we won 90 games. In '85, we won 98 games. In '86, we won 108 games plus eight more in the postseason. We had an off year in '87 because of injuries. We come back and win 100 games in 1988, which probably was the most disappointing year for me. We had beaten the Dodgers 10 of 11 games that year in the regular season. And then I think we were in first and second game of the playoffs. Dwight gave up a home run in the ninth inning, and we wanted to lose to the Dodgers at seventh game. So if we had won that game, a lot of people said the teams should have won more. Probably should have, but we just ran into a hot Dodger team. That's why the regular season is great, but the postseason is what they remember you by.
Exactly. I was at that game with my mother when Doc gave up the home run. It was the first playoff game I ever been to because I didn't get to go
Yeah.
to '86, and it was an amazing experience to be there when he gave the home. It's like oh my, really, like it's not gonna happen
We
again
lost
this
the
year.
game in 12 innings, and I think Jesse Orosco pitched in the 12th inning for the Dodgers, and Oral Hershiser, who got everybody out there, and he came in to got the save in the 12th inning.
Yeah,
I think we had the bases loaded and nobody out, and didn't score, and Socha hit the home run, and I forget who Dwight walked with, Mike Davis or somebody walked, some really nondescript Dodger guy, and then Socha hit the home run to tie the game up, and we lost, and then we had to. We got it up to the seventh game, and I think the Dodgers scored 5 runs in the first inning against Ron Darling and beat us 5-0 in game seven.
yeah. So in '86, I mean that was a magical year. Where were you doing the whole summer? I mean, did you feel like wow, this is gonna be it? And like,
Yeah, for the spring trade, exactly. We don't forget in '85 we won 98 games.
hmm
We would have been in the wild card every year if there was a wild card. That spring, we were in St. Pete. I remember it was like yesterday. Davey addresses the team. He said, "Guys, we're not even going to win. We're going to dominate." So we started off 2-3, and our
hmm
homecoming dinner. Davey said, "Guys, everything's going to be good. We'll probably lose 50 or so games the rest of the year." So I think we lost 51 games from April on to wind up 108 in 54. But as the story goes, so we're in game six of the World Series. We're losing 5-3, bottom of the 10th inning. I'm sitting in Davies' office with Keith Hernandez and Darryl Johnson, one of our scouts, and try to figure out how am I going to alibi to the press and the team. And we were really hated that year, guys. Of course, we got to fight after fight after fight. If anybody threw at our guys, Darryl would go to the mound. Bill Robinson would go to the mound. So all of a sudden, Gary gets a hit, Kevin Mitchell gets a hit, Ray Knight gets a hit, Mookie's famous at bat. We win the game. And next day, when people forget, we didn't win the World Series in Game 6. Game 7, we're losing 3-0 after 5 innings. Keith got a couple big RBIs. Ray Knight did. We came back and won. And his famous iconic picture of Jesse jumping on the mound, and we beat him in Game 7.
Well, in Game 6, when you were inside, were you like with the two outs? Were you like, oh my God, this is it, or did you feel like
No, I
they?
was saying, oh my God, this is it. I'm not gonna. I said, "Oh my God, this is it." I mean, and the one thing I found, Gary Carter, who died way too young at 57 years old, he was not going to make the last out of the World Series. So after he scored a run, and then again, he put his catcher's gear on, ready to go back out and play again. Gary was the most optimistic person I know. Caring. I know if you guys knew David Wright, know David Wright at all. Gary was David Wright before David Wright.
Mm.
Great in the community, loved kids, never turned away an autograph, a team player. Uh, Gary he could go all for five as long as the pitchers had a shutout or struck out 10. Gary was happy. And again, 57 years old, way, way too young to die.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny you said the same thing that we had Wally Backman on a previous episode, and he shared with us the same thing about Davy Johnson. That in that meeting, he says, "Nope, we're gonna win this. We're gonna be good." And that I guess that confidence from your manager just
Yeah,
propels
you know what I think
everybody
about
else.
Davey? he wasn't afraid. Usually, a manager will be quiet when he speaks to the press. He wasn't afraid to tell the media how good his team was. Yeah, he had a lot of faith in the guy. And like Darryl Strawberry spoke at Davy's funeral, and what Darryl said sums it up. He let the players play. We had rules, but he knew when to enforce the rules and when not to enforce the rules. He would find a guy for being late and forget about it the next day. And coming back from Houston, we had a great 16-inning win in the
Mm-hmm.
National League playoffs. We were fined $10,000 for destroying the plane. Davey ripped up the letter. He said, "You guys had a good time. You deserved it. Screw it." So
I remember that video.
yeah,
I saw that video someplace.
I'm going to change it up a little bit, and I want to talk a little bit about your kind of your place in the media world, media space, and all that. So starting with the Mets in 1980, now you're all the way we're into the 2020s. You've seen a complete transformation of technology and media in that span of time. From the internet to how games are broadcasted and so I was curious as to what your perspective is on how the goods and the bads and the
well,
interesting pieces of how that has evolved over the years.
well, Twitter is the thing to change everything. Twitter, Instagram, X, whatever the hell you want to call it.
Yeah, yeah.
When I first started, the news would be disseminated by a press release. Now it's the players' agents on X, a phone call, a guy would tweet something. We would have these. I think the players of today have it so much harder. When I broke in with the guys, you just have to be available, aware of who you go on an elevator with, who you have dinner with, who you walk the streets with, because it want to either get you fired. Look what's going on in the world today. One bad comment, you're fired about anything. You
Yeah,
got to
yeah.
be. You can't be political. It's hard for the players to be political now because they'll be the pacify one half, the other half is mad at them. The guy we used to have these media seminars in the spring. Be aware. Don't meet as your friends. Be friendly, but understand, guys, they're not your friends. They like nothing better to get an exclusive on the back page. Don't sell out your teammates. Be aware of one Met said, or try to give stuff without any attribution. But now you just got to be. There's so much to be aware of. I mean, nobody writes releases anymore. If you make a trade, the agent will say it, the player will say it. If a player's hurt, he'll announce it on his own Twitter. It's just, it's
That's
just,
right.
it's just remarkable. I like to be a control freak to control everything. Now a PR guy, you really can't because there's so many different avenues where the news can get out. From the friend of a friend of a friend, or a family member would tweet something. The guys today have to be so much more aware of their surroundings now. Nothing like when I first started. Nothing at all.
That's interesting that you about all that. Just throw this out there because when all the social media first started, you saw guys out there sharing stuff, and then you would see some of the guys stop sharing, and then all of a sudden they just went cold and they don't share anymore, and then the social media is totally blank. So I think they realized that okay, I think I can't talk about this anymore.
I can't imagine what it would be like if my 86 guys had Twitter. Oh my God. Would have driven me absolutely crazy. You But I mean, the guys tweeting and this and that. Thank God I had no Twitter when I first started. Thank the Lord.
So do the
Yeah, no
do the
doubt.
do the PR guy now still have to kind of like chase after the guys and watch every single one of their
He's got to
social
be
media?
more aware. You have to. I'm sure the PR guys are talking. Guys, be aware who you sit next to, who you ride the elevator with, who you walk on the streets with, who you see talk with on the telephone. I would just tell them they have to be aware what you have in your locker. Now a presser in the locker, suppose they take a picture of something, in the locker that goes viral. They just got to be more aware. They have to have their antennas up and be aware of what's going on. It's much more. It's amped up 100,000,000% right now.
Think it was at that point, like, take it back then, the guys had a lot, they didn't have to care about those types of things, right?
There's
Because
no
like,
question, no question. I mean, there was no Twitter. Again, we used to write if we made a trade at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it wasn't out at 5 o'clock. It was out the next morning.
Mm-hmm.
right,
I used to sit in my electric typewriter, type the release out. Then I have to worry about guys tweeting or scooping the release. Now nothing holds. My advice, if you try to hold a story, there's no way it's going to hold too many different outlets, players, agents, friends of family, and it'll never hold. Just accept the fact that really nobody writes a press release with a player move anymore.
Yeah.
no, you're absolutely right. And I noticed like during the trade deadline, I don't need to look for any other information other than X, social media, because every writer, every like media writer out there is speculating all day long. They're right maybe half the time. They hear from one guy and they just put it out there.
Yeah,
Um,
what's a lot of the writers now? They have these relationships with the high-powered agents, and when
yeah,
stuff is close, they'll call their sources. They'll get stuff from certain guys. I mean, it's all about relationships, and the national writers like Buster Olney, John Heyman, Joel Sherman,
right.
uh, they'll all have their sources. When if they're tweeting something, you know that they spoke to the horse's mouth. Where they got it from, which is part of the game.
Yeah. Yeah, they'll also say the our source said this is gonna happen, and then the next tweet, oh, I'm sorry, this happened. It's like, who's your source? They're telling you the wrong information.
Yeah, I mean that's why it's a Twitter X, like whatever you want to call it, just changed the landscape of the PR business, and for not just in baseball, in all the sports. Look at with the guy who just read Adrian Wojciechowski from ESPN. He made a career out of breaking stories,
Yeah.
it's all got to give these guys credit. They develop sources with players, with agents, and when something's about to break, they get tipped off.
Yeah, when we started Legends on Deck in the beginning, I was like, oh, we got to know this, and then maybe we have to get a source inside and break the news. I never wanted to do that because if I break the news and then I get in trouble with somebody because I broke the wrong news, so I was like, everybody else break the news and we just write about it. Like
My philosophy, guys, I never like to give exclusives because the one guy you make happy, I try to take care of the guy from a small paper like I would take care of the guy from New York Times and New York Post. Try to treat everybody equal. A lot of times it didn't work out, but if you start leaking stuff or giving stuff exclusive, you make one guy happy and the other guy's not happy. And I try to keep a happy beat reporters because I was trying to treat everybody the same. Maybe I
Mhm.
didn't see it all the time. That was my my belief going forward. The guy from the Bodunk Times just as important as everybody else.
Yeah, and that's a good way to go about it. To kind of just make sure it's even playing, and I think in my experience back then in 2014, you guys ran a great ship. All the reporters would tell me all the time. They kind of showed me the ropes, and it was always kind of like it was easy to do what we needed to do, but just make sure we did it the right way. But you always kept everybody going in the right direction.
I try to be fair and equal is what I try to do.
Yeah. And you showed that very well back then. I want to ask you about the Mets ownership changes over the years. So when you started, were the Wilpons the owners back then when you started?
I started April 1st. It was Wilpon Doubleday,
Yes.
uh, and then in '88, uh, um, Nelson was trying to clear some stuff for his kids to get his estate in order. Sold most of his stuff to Fred, and then we have the Cones, 21 or 22. It's really just three. It was really just one set of owners, really two sets of owners I've worked with.
So then, being the different changes over the years, have you seen like and your experience with the different owners? I mean, with the players and everything else, how's that experience evolved over the years with the
Just let me say
Mets
one thing,
itself?
guys. I worked for the Wilpons for 40 plus years. Was everything great all the time? Never, nothing's ever great, but they were good to me. They kept me employed for 40 years. They were good people. What used to bother me when the people who say, well, Fred and Jeff don't care. Nothing could be further from the truth. I mean, was every decision we made 100%? No, but they cared. They gave a shit. A lot of things didn't work out, but these were good, decent people. just like the Cones are good, decent people. So I've been very fortunate enough to work for a lot of good people through the years, and the Cones have expanded what we do with the alumni. They have a good sense of our history. You know, Steve has the Mookie Ball from '86, and they're very supportive of what we do with our alumni. So I've been, I know it's a lot of people will bash Fred and Jeff. I'm not one of those people. I'm
No, no, it's
thankful
okay.
thankful for working for them, and I still speak to both of them to this day. And just to say once again, they really cared. They really cared what went on. They did work out all the time, but they put their heart and soul into it. And and in this day is really lucky to work any place for 40 years. I think pretty fortunate on my end.
No, definitely. And I think, the only time they had the bad press when everything happened, I mean, me following the Mets, I never really heard anything bad about the Wilpons up until that issue that happened, that came up, and then the transition to the new owners. I think the only thing with me being a Mets fan since the 80s is I love what you guys are doing with the whole alumni and bringing ball players back and seeing all the old guys. I mean, whoever decides to come back, that's up to them. But I just love that I get to see, like, I mean, the alumni game you guys had recently. I watched that on TV. That was amazing. That was awesome to see all these different guys.
We have
Bayan,
44
hey,
people back, and
I know it's crazy.
even Alex give me their blessing, and they always come down and say hello to the guys. And the biggest fan of all the Cones is Alex's mother, Grandpa Cone, 94 years old. I watched some games with him. The guy's with it. He cares. He knows the guys who they are when they come into his booth.
Hmm.
So it's unfortunate what happened this year. You know what? I mean, I mean, nothing comes easy. Hopefully when we win the first time next year, it'll be more satisfied. But you can't, you got to keep going and going and going. That's why you got to give the Mets fans a lot of credit. We haven't won a lot, but our guys are, I think they're true blue New Yorkers. They're the lunch pail guys. They never give up. And hopefully in 2026, we can reward them with a championship.
Yeah, I'm waiting. I'm wait. Listen. I'm in a probably my in a generation of not many guys have experienced the Mets winning World Series. A lot
Right.
of my friends and a lot of the people that I know, who are not a lot. I don't have a lot of Mets friends, unfortunately, but they're a lot of the younger ones, younger than me, and they're like, "What was it like to see the Mets win the World Series?" I said, "I don't know. I cried. It was amazing. I mean, to experience '86 the way it was." It was the most amazing thing, and not to get back. I mean, 2000 was awesome. To get there again,
Yeah.
15 was awesome, but not
Yeah,
to
let me
win
stop you
it.
by saying 2000, we both game ones in 2015, games won to the World Series went to extra innings.
Hmm.
If we had won, you know, we would have been a different thing. We battled the Yankees that year in Yankee State. We had the lead going into the bottom of the ninth. The Yankees tied it up. We lost to 12 innings. And
Hmm.
then, maybe if Timo had run the ball out a little bit on or Todd Zeal thought he had a home run, we could have won the
Yeah,
game. But you know what? When we do it again, it's going to make it a little more sweeter. That's my philosophy.
that's right. When we knock out the how many years? Hopefully, it doesn't get too long like the Red Sox. But what? Real quick, how over the years? Do you have any favorite players? And not to put anybody on the spot, but guys you've dealt with, and any
I
managers you dealt
No,
with.
it's okay. I hate that question.
I'll cut that
Because,
one out. I'm gonna cut that one
well,
out.
no, it really is hard. I mean, I've been fortunate enough. You can think I'm bullshitting you guys. I don't ever remember having an argument with a player in my time there. I got along. I try to treat the 25th guy like the number one guy. I, uh, I mean, one time in spring training, I was out with some writers, and a guy said to me, "Who's your favorite Met?" Uh, and I said, for some reason, I said John Franco.
Mm.
2 minutes later, I got a call from David Wright on my cell phone. What about me? And you have David Wright, Mookie Wilson, Al Leiter, Gary Carter, the managers, Terry Collins. I can't do that. I mean,
Yeah, no.
I've been fortunate to work with a lot of great guys. When I call them, they return my calls. I stay in touch with the 69 guys like Shamsky, Swoboda, Jerry
Uh,
Kuzman, Cleon Jones, the Joe Young boys, the Doug Flynn's of the world. I try and keep my relationships up with them all. With unfortunately, a lot of the guys have been dying recently. Buddy House and Jerry Grody, Jim McAndrew, Davey Johnson just recently. So I don't play favorites. I can't really say number one. I mean, there's a lot of 1As. Let me put it like that.
But that's good.
For
It, it
sure.
it it just shows the type of person you are,
Well,
and everyone that cared to be around you, and the relationship you have with people. So inside secretly you can think whatever you want, but you never put it out there, so it's fine.
I know it's a no. It hurts some people's feelings. The last thing I want to do is hurt anybody's feelings.
You just tell everybody, I love you all. That's it. I love you
I
all, and
Yes,
treat you all the same.
they're all my kids.
There you go.
That's right. David was saying he doesn't know very many Mets fans, and I tell him this. I'll tell you first of all, this show we've had so many either guests that were Mets adjacent or guys that we had on that we had no idea were actually Mets fans. And I'm telling you, I live in Orlando. We have a lot of relocated New Yorkers, and I am always surprised that when I meet guys that are into baseball, the Mets Yankees split is almost dead even.
Yeah.
So whatever you guys do to suck people into the Mets world, when you have the Yankees in town, you guys do a great job.
Yeah, well, Davey Johnson lives in the Orlando area. I'm very familiar with that area. Mets fans are very passionate. They have thick skins. I mean, it's easy to root for a team that wins a lot. To me, it's a lot harder to root for a team that doesn't win every year. To have the quote disappointment of the last
Mhm.
couple of years, and I tell you, the owners, Steve and Alex, are going to get this done. We're gonna get the right people in place. We have people right now with Carlos Mendoza, David Stern, and we're going to get it right eventually. I'm just hoping next year is the year.
Yeah, but you're right with the passion part of it. I mean, people tell me all the time, "Why are you a Mets fan?" I'm like, one of my mother, it was a time in my life when things weren't going right, and my mom took us to the games and just made us passionate Mets fans. In '86, when they won, I was in a Catholic school. She said, "Don't worry about the nuns. I'm taking you to the parade the next day.
Yeah,
You're good." And '88 to the playoffs, and she's always kept that love. And I tell people the same thing you just said. I don't care about the 27, 28 championships. I mean, the Yankees haven't won since 2009 anyway. What I care about is it's just something different about this team, and it's
you know, you
mine.
know,
It's mine.
my first manager was Joe Torre. I
Mm.
still stay in contact with him. Joe is a great guy. He introduced me to all his friends, to the Reggie Jacksons, the Pete Roses of the world, the George Bretts of the world. Great guy, and even all of his fame, all of his success, and anytime I need something for charity, and Joe is always there for me, and he's just a really good guy. I just saw him. Every time the Dodgers come in, he comes to watch. But he taught me how to get accustomed to a major league locker room. I'm being very grateful to Joe, how to act, how to be around the players, what to do, what not to do, and I've been friends with Joe now for, since my first day on the job. He always kids me. He said, Jay always got me fired, but I still like you. So after we left the Mets and the Cardinals and the Braves, he did pretty well. But I don't know if you guys remember the headline in the Daily News: Yankees hire clueless Joe.
Yeah, yeah. And then he wasn't clueless after
No, it
that.
wasn't clueless. It wasn't clueless. No, it wasn't.
That's
So
funny. So we tend to have a lot of younger writers and kids in the space in the that are growing in the media space in our, our orbit, I would say, contributing writers and college kids. Um, you looking back to where you started in the business, um, what kind of advice would you give a younger person today that was interested in working in baseball and particularly in the media space?
I mean, for a newspaper,
And anything related to front office, baseball industry.
well, if you want to work in the baseball industry, number one, you can't be a clock watcher. Uh, I mean, now the when I my 38 plus years, guys would go to spring training in February. Now it's right after Christmas. You have to be dedicated. It's a 12 month a year job. You have to understand what you're getting into. They have the winter meetings, the All Star games, the stuff after. If you want to be a PR guy or in marketing, it's no off season. I always like to say I had a lot of friends in the NFL. Guys, we have 2 games this week. Well, we have 38 games in the spring, 160, 62 regular season, maybe another 30 in the postseason. It's a different thing. It's a different grind. Even the NBA and the hockey, that's 80 plus game. I mean, really, the baseball stuff is a grind. If you don't can't accept this fact, you that's the mindset you're gonna go in. There's no Friday night at the movies, no Sunday afternoons at the beaches. I gotta say though, it's more and more is white work-life balance has into it more than when I first started. Now it's more of a balance. And if you want to be a writer, don't look for the next day headlines. Look for telling a complete story. Just don't always look for a headline that might not be 100% correct. Those kind of guys don't stay on a long time. Just do a good job. Try to get both sides of the situation. You don't always look to get the back page of the paper the next day. Just try to do a thorough job and be complete. And for a PR guy, in my mind, you got to tell the truth. Maybe you don't have to tell all the truths, but just don't lie. One example in early '90s, we're in St. Louis, going through the main of the airport, the main lobby of the airport. So Jeff Kent gets stopped. He's got a gun in his bag, and
Mm.
instead of making up a cock and bull story, we told the truth. He said, "Listen, he made a mistake. He's a hunter. When you go to different cities, he goes to the gun ranges and shoot. But if you get caught in a lie, you're dead. And just to be honest as you can be, again, you don't have to tell all the truth, but what you do tell, it better be the truth.
Yeah, that would could have been. You don't want to lie about that one. You're in trouble.
Especially this day and age, you imagine getting caught with a gun in your bag. Wow.
Well, Jay, we've enjoyed going down memory lane with you. I have to say, like, you have a great memory of going back from the beginning, the players, the situations, I mean, everything. I mean, I know there's 40 plus years in baseball.
I just turned 80, guys.
I know it's
I'm an
It's
amazing.
old,
amazing.
I'm an
And
old fart.
but your remembrance of everything, I mean,
I
going through
hope
it with you is
when I
amazing.
start not remembering, that's, oh my God, I'm getting sick.
Well, I'm
Right.
glad we were able to plug into that part of your mind to really get an understanding of where you started, what you've gone through, all your experiences. I think it just
I just wanted one more thing before we
yeah,
go, guys.
definitely.
The one thing that I'm probably most proud of in my time with the Mets was the response of the 2001 team to 9/11.
Mm.
All the visits to Ground Zero, the police stations, we turned Shea Stadium into a parking lot. Uh, all the good stuff we did with the families. We were on the front end of Tuesday's Children, which took care of 3,000 kids that lost a parent. And I can't believe next year is going to be 25 years from 9/11.
Wow, I know.
And
Yeah.
we have a group of guys. Every year we go to a firehouse. This year was Al Leiter, John Franco, Todd Seal, Bobby Valentine. We make it our business to go to pay our respects to the 343 firefighters who died. And that's, when I die on my tombstone, if somebody would write, I was a part of the 2001 team, that would make me happy. But we did, the ring in '86 was great, but just to know what we did in 2001 that's, really makes my heart feel good that we made a difference in the city and did the right thing.
You know,
Piazza's home run was great, but
yeah.
it was so much, much, much more than Mike's home run, what the Mets did for the city.
I lived in New York at the time, so I was actually in Connecticut when the buildings got hit. I had to come back to Queens. But yeah, when you guys put baseball back on and just watching the pouring out the love from the Mets into the community and then the game itself, it just kind of brought everything back to reality. But it really helped the healing because
I still
a
get
lot of us were
goosebumps.
hurting.
I still get goosebumps when I see Mike's home run. I
Yeah.
was in a press box and I said, came up with a guy second base. I didn't think he was going to get hit a home run, but Mike was that kind of special kind of player. You knew he was going to do something different at that time. And, he hit a home run and we won the game.
Yep, that was a great time, especially with the guys wearing the hats from the fire department. The
And
police.
we were the forerunners of that too. Our visit, we had the first exchange. Steve Phillips was our GM. It gave a firefighter a Mets hat, and a firefighter gave Steve a firefighter's hat, and that started the whole
Mm.
thing of guys wearing hats. It's something else to be proud of.
Yep. Well, you guys did great by that, and by your fans with that in the city, and it helped us heal. It helped us, kind of move forward a little
Yeah,
bit and
yeah. I just
remember.
can't believe it's 25 years next year. It's crazy,
I know time's going
crazy.
by too fast. Make
Yeah,
me feel you're 80. I'm in the 50s. I'm feeling
yeah,
older.
yeah. I started when I was 9 years old, guys. So
That's right. Well, Jay, like David said, the stories and the details of the stories and all the memories that you were able to share. I mean, I was even thinking going back to you're talking to Willie Mays playing center field at the Polo Grounds
yeah,
and that detail. So I think this makes it the most appropriate 100th episode we could have had.
well, well. I'm
Um,
proud to be a part of it, guys. Keep it go. Go to 200. If I'm
we're
alive,
going.
if
We're
I'm alive,
this is
put me on for 200. I'm gonna be
I'll
there you
bring you
go.
back on. We'll
Yeah, I
try to
want to
keep
be
it
on the
within 10
200th
years.
episode.
Good. We'll try to do it. That's it, Brian. We gotta keep it
well. It
before.
took us. So we're at 100, and we started just shy of 4 years ago with this. So
Maybe we'll
well,
celebrate your 85th birthday on our
Oh my
show.
God, it's just gonna Jesus Christmas. Oh yeah. My mother used to say, "Oh yeah, yeah." We'll see.
well, Jay, we appreciate that
All
your
right,
your
guys.
your time and your wisdom, and thanks for being a part of this.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
So, guys, 100th episode. You want to see all the previous 99 episodes? Subscribe to our YouTube page. We're gonna keep moving forward, but this is a very special one for me, for Brian, just to get to 100. Jay's a special friend to me, so to have him a part of this is a huge thing for Legends on Deck. So, thank you for tuning in. And Brian, we did it. We got to 100. Now we just keep going from here. And I thank you for believing in the both of us for this, and just continue with our show.
Just the beginning, right?
All right, guys. Thank you so
All
much.
right.
Episode 100 of the Legends on Deck podcast. Thank you for tuning in.